What's up guys, today I will be working on installing a carbon fiber hatch on the 4G. I've had this hatch for quite a while now, I just haven't gotten around to installing it. I purchased this hatch locally from an undercover cop, or at least I think it was an undercover cop because he got out of a white Tahoe that looked like an undercover vehicle and the guy was actually open carrying a handgun. So I hope it was a cop. The hatch seems to be in pretty good shape. I couldn't find any cracks on the outside or on the inside of it, so I'm pretty happy about that. It just has a lot of sun damage. I think it has a clear coat on top, so I will be working on sanding that down until it has a smooth finish. So here it is. It's pretty sun damaged. I think it has a clear coat on it, which I'm gonna have to sand off because it's all messed up. It's pretty ugly. So that's what we're gonna be working on. Installing this, sanding it down, and I'm actually gonna do a delete on the windshield washer fluid thing and the wiper. I will be doing a delete on that as well, just like I have on my stock hatch. I deleted that thing. And also the wiper, I deleted it. I don't have a wiper on here because I don't like the look. I just think it looks cleaner without it. So that's what I will be doing on that. I'm gonna start by removing the wiper. Just has a plug here. That's it. Now I'm gonna do the rear wiper delete. Looks like it was just glued on there. Now I need to prep the surface. I sanded so the new carbon fiber will adhere nicely to the hatch. After I finish sanding it, I clean off all the dust. I hate how they leave this tiny opening because then you can't reach inside to install the washer fluid thing, or for this case, to reach inside and clean. So I'm gonna have to enlarge it. Carbon fiber particles are very dangerous, probably a carcinogen too, so you don't want to breathe this. Make sure you have protective equipment. Now I'm going to cover the holes with painter's tape because painter's tape is resistant to carbon fiber resin. I'm actually glad it's so ugly because I would be unsure about doing this with a brand new carbon fiber hatch. Just so you guys can see how ugly this is. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's bad. Before applying the carbon fiber cloth, I like wiping the area down with a towel and some alcohol to make sure I get a nice bond on the surface. Now just cut whatever you need from your cloth. I think I'm gonna do a 3x3 for the spray nozzle. Don't forget to put on your gloves because then you'll be itchy for weeks. And then I'm gonna cut for the other hole. Probably about the same size. Now comes the good part, the preparation of the fiberglass resin. It's mixed 2-to-1. So grab your measuring cup or whatever you're using. So I'm gonna do 2 ounces of part A. And I'm gonna do 1 ounce of part B. And you can do any amount you want as long as you do it 2-to-1. And then I like using a paintbrush to mix it. Okay, now that you have mixed it really well, you're gonna wet the surface. Just like so, really well. The area that you're gonna be working on. And then you apply your first cloth. Push it in place, then coat over it. I like pushing the brush like this. It makes sure the epoxy gets into the cloth. Then you're gonna apply your second cloth. Just lay it down on top, push it in place, then apply another coat. It's pretty hard to lay it down nicely because it's in a tight area, but it's okay. It doesn't matter because it's gonna be on the underside. Now we're gonna apply our last piece of cloth. Now we're gonna do this one. And lay down the first cloth. This one's gonna be tricky. That's good. Next cloth. Last one. So what I do is I push the middle, and I hold it down and I push each corner individually. And it's working pretty good. I'm not worried about making it pretty, I just wanted to be strong. On the holes for the emblem, I did the same procedure. I just stood up the hatch on the wall because it was easier to look at what I was working on. Using an alcohol wet microfiber towel, I cleaned off the area that I contaminated with epoxy. If this is not cleaned quickly, it will harden onto the surface and it will be very difficult to remove. That's all there is to that. Now we just let it cure from 24 to 48 hours and it should be ready. After about 24 hours, we can go ahead and remove the painter's tape. So I started sanding down an area because I wanted to see what I was working with, and it turns out that it's extensively damaged, like really bad. In some areas I sanded so much that I completely finished the carbon fiber surface. Like there, and over here too. So it's pretty bad. Luckily for me, I'm gonna paint it because I don't like different colored body panels. So I can just sand down all the damage and paint it like that and you won't even notice. But if this was for someone who wanted the carbon fiber surface, like so you can see the carbon fiber finish, yeah, this hatch would have been totally useless. Now that it's been drying for more than 48 hours, I'm gonna block sand it in order to straighten out the surface. I'm gonna start off with a pretty low grit. I'm gonna go with 180. It's pretty low, but I need to remove the clear coat anyways, it's fine. Then I'll work my way up to 400 and 600. We'll be wet sanding this one. I have finished sanding it down with 180 grit. I'm now gonna go up to 400 grit. Alright, so I have sanded down the areas that we patched down with carbon fiber. And it's pretty smooth. Looks pretty good. It looks like it might be unlevel, but it actually is completely smooth. And also this area. It looks ugly, but it's gonna work just fine. That has been completely patched up. Unfortunately, on this patch, the epoxy did not go through to cover up the hole smoothly like on this one. But since the patch is already there in place, I can just use some Bondo to cover up those holes. I have sanded down the entire hatch with a 400 grit. And for my purposes, it will be perfect. Alright guys, so now that it's been decently prepped, we're ready to install it. Here you can see the area that I sanded down more. I put more effort into that area, but it took me hours to get it to that finish. And I don't really need to work on it that much. For the rest of the hatch, I just decided to not sand it down that much, because it's too much work for me to just end up painting it anyways. So I don't need this perfect finish. With such a nice sand down, I can work my way up to a 800 grit, 1000 grit, then maybe a 1500 grit or 2000. And then I can polish it and I can give it a nice clean carbon fiber finish. Like maybe like that, or even better. But since I'm gonna paint it, I don't need to work on it so much. I have honestly sanded it down so much now that it has an extra weight reduction. If anybody wants to do this delete on their personal carbon fiber hatch, make sure that the cloth you buy has the same pattern as your carbon fiber hatch. Because this hatch, I think it has a pattern of 1 over and 1 under. And the cloth I used here, I think it has a pattern of 2 over and 2 under, so it's gonna look different. Also, when you lay down the cloth, make sure it's in the same orientation of the hatch itself. Proceeding with the install, I will start by removing the spoiler because I don't want to damage it while I remove the hatch. So I'm gonna remove those 2 bolts there and these 2 bolts right here. Alright, then I'm gonna proceed with... Oh shit, wrong size. Now I'm gonna remove the shocks. At first I was honestly doubting the difference in weight between the original one and the carbon fiber one. But now I can really feel the difference. Damn. There are some wires running to the hatch from there and there that I need to disconnect first. And before I can do that, I need to expose them. So I'm gonna remove this plastic and the plastics on the side. There's 2 Phillips head screws that need to be removed here. And then you can go ahead and pop it off. Then we have a Phillips head screw here. Take that off and then pop it right off. I'm gonna be removing this harness from the hatch because this goes to the brake light. I won't be needing the wiring for the wiper anymore, but I still need the wiring for the brake light, so I have to remove it all together since it's wired into one harness. There's a lot of clips that I'm just prying off. I unplugged all of the harness connections and removed all these little plastics. Took out this part of it out of the hatch itself so I can take it off without ripping any wiring. This one here, I just removed this little plug and I was able to take it out. Really simple on this side. Now I'm gonna remove these last bolts here and let's see what happens. Hopefully the hatch doesn't fall on my head or I will be essentially crashing into myself. I used blue Loctite on these 4 bolts just as an extra precaution to ensure they wouldn't fall off. So I got some bad news. The shocks are too strong for the carbon fiber hatch. When I try to close it, it starts cracking. I'm gonna have to remove the shocks and be shockless for a while and see what I can find that's compatible with a carbon fiber hatch, unfortunately. I removed this shock and now I'm able to close it, but it's still too strong. So that's closed, and then I pop it open and it's very violent. So I'm gonna have to look into that. But at least it works now. I did some research and it turns out that ViS carbon fiber panels are not entirely made out of carbon fiber. That is why when I sanded it too much, I exposed the fiberglass layer that is used during manufacturing. It turns out that what I was sanding was actually the carbon fiber epoxy of the hatch, and it wasn't actually a clear coat that was sprayed on like I thought it was. So that's kind of disappointing, because if anybody else gets sun damage on their ViS carbon fiber hatch and they want to restore that carbon fiber finish by sanding it and polishing it down, if they sand down too much like I had to here, then they will not be able to restore that look. Alright guys, that is the end of this video. If you are still here, thank you so much for watching. If you want to give extra support to the channel, please give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions or concerns, just comment them down below and I will get back to you as always.